focus groups for male prostitutes. The president's saying, I don't think so. I don't think that the American people support giving their hard-earned money to male prostitutes in Haiti. So he's asking us to cut it out. He's asking us to reduce the budget by $833,000 because some of President Biden's bureaucrats gave a contract to transgender people, sex workers, and their clients in Nepal. The president's saying, I don't want to do that. And he's right. That's enough. You get the idea. That's why I call it spending porn. Triggers your gag reflex. You look at this stuff and you go, what in God's name? Who decided to do this? Well, Congress didn't. The bureaucrats did. It's money we appropriated, but we didn't tell them to go spend money, $833,000, and give to sex workers in Nepal. They just took the money we appropriated and used it for that. And so the president is asking us to do what's called a rescission, to cancel the spending. Now,
the Senate chamber fell unusually quiet, not the kind of quiet that comes from routine debate, the kind of quiet that comes when a politician says something that nobody in the room is ready to defend. That was the moment when Senator John Kennedy stepped onto the Senate floor and delivered a blistering argument about government spending that left many Democrats visibly uncomfortable, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. What began as a discussion about a tiny budget cut quickly turned into a much bigger question. If Washington politicians constantly promise to cut waste, why does it seem almost impossible when the moment finally arrives? Kennedy framed the issue in stark terms. President Trump had asked Congress to reduce federal spending by just 0.1% of the total budget. That was it. But what Kennedy revealed about where some of that money was going stunned the chamber. Tonight, we break down the moment Senator Kennedy challenged Washington's spending habits, exposed what he called spending porn, and forced lawmakers to confront a simple question. Do they really want to cut waste, or do they only talk about it?
I want to say, Mr. President, next week, President Trump's going to send us over what's called a rescission bill. What does that mean? Well, we've got a $7 trillion budget, okay? I don't know how much of that $7 trillion is waste, but every fair-minded person would have to agree that there's some money being spent in that $7 trillion that shouldn't be spent. It just shouldn't. It's wasted money. And so President Trump and this Congress made one of its objectives trying to reduce spending. Not spending that we need to reduce, but spending that needs to be reduced. I call it spending porn. And the president has sent us a bill. He's saying to Congress, I want you to reduce spending in the current budget by $9.1 billion. And let me tell you what the spending, what constitutes the spending I want to reduce. Well, first, $9.1 billion out of a $7 trillion budget, we're not talking about a lot of money here. We're talking about 0.1%. That's all. That's point one. Point two, you need to look at what the president's asking us to cut out. I'll just give you a couple of examples. I didn't make this up. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Iraq to produce Sesame Street. Maybe we could use that money for something else. The president is saying we're giving $3 million to Zambia for circumcisions and vasectomies. The president's saying we don't need to do that. We've got other priorities. We're giving $500,000 to Rwanda to buy electric buses. The president is saying to us, Congress, we don't need to be spending the money on that. There are more important things. We're spending $67,000 to give insect powder to kids in Madagascar. I don't even know what insect powder is, but the president's asking us to cut it out. We're giving $3,600,000 to Haiti for pastry cooking classes, for cyber cafes, for dance focus groups, for male prostitutes. The president's saying, I don't think so. I don't think that the American people support giving their hard-earned money to male prostitutes in Haiti. So he's asking us to cut it out. He's asking us to reduce the budget by $833,000 because some of President Biden's bureaucrats gave a contract to transgender people, sex workers, and their clients in Nepal. The president's saying, I don't want to do that. And he's right. That's enough. You get the idea. That's why I call it spending porn. Triggers your gag reflex. You look at this stuff and you go, what in God's name? Who decided to do this? Well, Congress didn't. The bureaucrats did. It's money we appropriated, but we didn't tell them to go spend money, $833,000, and give it to sex workers in Nepal. They just took the money we appropriated and used it for that. And so the president is asking us to do what's called a rescission, to cancel the spending. Now, I have listened, I've been here 8 years, Mr. President, and I've listened to a whole bunch of people talk about the need to reduce spending. But you got to watch what people do, not what they say. Because talk is cheap. And around here, I've learned pretty quickly that reducing spending, it's like going to heaven. I want to go to heaven. I bet you want to go to heaven, Mr. President. I bet our guests in the gallery want to go to heaven. But everybody wants to go to heaven. Raise your hand if you're ready to take the trip today. Most people, you are, sir, and I admire that, but most people want to live a little longer. And that's the way it is with reducing spending around here. I want to reduce spending. I support it, but not just yet, because I've got this project. Well, and I've listened to that. And I've especially listened to it for the past 100 days. Go get them, President Trump. Reduce that spending. We're behind you 1,000%. Well, he has. He has. 0.1% he's asking us to reduce. And I'm not saying senators shouldn't ask questions and make some changes if they need to be made, but here's the bottom line. It is gut check time. It is gut check time. You either believe in reducing spending or you don't. And if you talk the game and say, let's reduce spending, and you vote against this bill, in my opinion, you ought to hide your head in a bag. Because you will be able to cut the hypocrisy with a knife. It's real hard, Mr. President, to preach temperance from a bar stool. It's gut check time. We need to pass this bill. I yield the floor, Mr. President.
Let's dive in. In the end, Senator Kennedy's message was simple and impossible to ignore. He reminded the Senate that fiscal responsibility is not proven by speeches, but by the courage to make difficult decisions when the moment arrives. While many politicians talk endlessly about cutting wasteful spending, Kennedy challenged Congress to finally act on those promises. His argument was not about politics, it was about protecting the hard-earned money of American taxpayers. When families across the country are working overtime just to keep up with rising costs, every dollar the government spends should be treated with seriousness and accountability. Kennedy made it clear that asking for a tiny reduction in a $7 trillion budget should not be controversial if leaders truly believe in responsible government. By exposing questionable spending programs, he forced Washington to confront a truth that many would rather avoid. If lawmakers claim they support cutting waste but refuse to support even the smallest reductions, then their words lose meaning. Kennedy stood firm and refused to soften the reality of the situation. He spoke with clarity, conviction, and a willingness to challenge the comfort of the political establishment. In doing so, he reminded Americans that leadership requires honesty and the courage to say enough is enough. Whether one agrees with every detail of his argument or not, Kennedy's stand showed a determination to defend taxpayers and demand accountability from Washington.